Hello and welcome to Ed's Charts. In this video I'm going to be showing you the latest build, and I would like to talk to you about every part in the build in terms of the quality, ease of assembly and things like that, and also the overall assembly and what I think about it. Now this video will be segmented into three parts. In the first I'm going to show you the hardware used. Very quick description there because most of the parts you can find easily on YouTube and some of them even on my channel. And you can see the overviews, reviews and everything about that. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just going to basically show you what's inside, what did I use. Second would be the assembly process, which I'm just going to talk about the actual assembly. So I'm going to talk about the height of, let's say, CPU cooler, the length of the graphics cards, the hard drive tray, things like that. And the last but not least, I'm going to just basically sum everything up. And I'm going to tell you the positives and negatives of this build and what I would change if I had a chance. So let's get started. Right, before I start, so that's what the case looks like. So that's the Corsair 450D. Just to go quickly through the features, so it has removable front filter, 2 front fans, 140mm Corsair fans. It has a headphone microphone jack on the front, reset switch and the power button, 2 USB 3.0 and a removable mesh filter on the top, and also possibility to install up to 3 120mm or 2 140mm fans. Now, obviously both side panels are removed by these thumb screws. What else do we have? On the bottom, by the way, we have a magnetic filter as well. Simply just you pull it down. Now I can't access it really right now because it's on this thing, but it's easily removable and it's easy to clean. So dust filters all over the place. On the back we have Corsair 120mm fan as well, so 3 fans overall included, so very nice. And yep, that's about it. I'm going to show you now inside because there's another spot where you can install 2 120mm fans, and that's on the bottom of the case. Alright, so that's what it looks like with the side panel removed. Now as you see here we have a hard drive tray and it's removable, and you can also, I believe, slide it on the top. Let's have a look. Yep, so you can secure it on the top as well. This is removable part. Sorry, that shouldn't be with that. It's just because it's unscrewed. So once you're removing it from the bottom, it slides like that. This remains and you can remove it as well. So as you see, nice and clean. And this whole thing comes off and you can put it on the top. Now, one thing to note, some reviewers have complained about the hard drive tray to be, well, it's not really, a little bit wobbly now. But they're basically complaining about it being not secure. However, what they fail to spot is there's here a spot for another screw, and that can be secured on the front of the actual case, and it gives some added stability over here, and this screw is also included. Talking about other features of the case, so as I mentioned, on the bottom you can put another 2 120mm fans. There's another 2 trays here for 5¼ inch drives, so optical drives, plenty of rubber grommets, things like that. So yeah, that's about it. Now guys, I'm not going to talk much about every component because quite frankly you can find pretty much everything on YouTube these days, and especially the case Hardware Canucks has done a very good video about that. So I just wanted to point out some obvious features. Now, so yeah, let's just have an overall outlook and talk about what's in the case. So starting with the power supply, it's a Seasonic Platinum power supply. It's SS660 XP2. Now a little bit about the power supply. It's an 80 plus Platinum, 92% efficiency, 7 years warranty, silent hybrid fan. There's a little switch here that you can switch, and you can choose between silent operation, which means the fan doesn't spin at all, up to certain power usage, and then it starts spinning higher, basically the higher the usage goes. Or you can have the fan pretty much always on, depending on the temperature, it will spin faster or slower. So that's the silent hybrid fan feature. Voltage, very strict voltage regulation, only plus minus 2%. It's obviously fully modular, has all the cables here, as you see, that I need, so I don't have anything that I don't need hanging there. In terms of the size, it's 160 by 150 by 86 millimeters. For connections, we have one motherboard 2420 pin, one CPU 8 4-pin, and one CPU 8-pin. We have 4 PCI Express 6+2 pins. We have 5 peripheral connectors as well, and 10 SATA connectors, and one floppy drive, kind of an adapter thingy. And that's about it. So yeah, next, the motherboard, which is ASUS MAXIMUS 7 Hero. Now, you already seen that motherboard on my channel, and there's good few reviews as well, so I'm not going to talk much about it, other than it's a Republic of Gamers motherboard. Really nice, has a really nice LED accents around, and it's a well-performing board, and very well priced at that as well. It's a good value board. Next up is the CPU, which is Intel i7-4790K, so it's an i7 model, unlocked. It has 4 cores, 8 threads, has integrated HD 4600 graphics from Intel, uses 22 nanometer lithography, LJ1150 socket, has 8 megabytes cache, and clock is 4 gigahertz stock, turbos to 4.4 by default, and you can obviously overclock the hell out of it, depends on what cooling you use. So talking about cooling, I'm using Noctua NH-U14S, so it's a single tower power supply. 6 heat pipes, 140 millimeter fan with PWM control with some added bits in terms of the speed regulation. Secufirm 2 hardware, probably the best out there on the market. Thermal paste included, which is NTH1, 6 years warranty. In terms of the RAM slot, they're asking for the first RAM slot to be 32 millimeters or under. However, if you can see here, I actually managed to put it in between the RAM and the heatsink, so that's fine. What else? The fan itself is NF-A15. It's nice and quiet fan. It really is a quiet fan, guys. Now, high recommendations if you want to build a quiet case. One thing about the overall cooling solution is it's 165 millimeters tall, so something to have in mind. This case supports up to 165 millimeters tall coolers, and this particular cooler fits just fine, so just to let you know. And it's 150 millimeters wide, just in case. Another nice thing from Noctua is that you can get free bracket upgrades. So in terms of swapping the CPU cooler for different CPU sockets, if you need to do that, go ahead. You will have support from Noctua there if possible. Another thing what I went with here is Kingston HyperX Fury RAM. You also saw that unboxing and overview on my channel, so not going to talk much. It's 2 by 8 gigabytes, 1.5 volt RAM running at 1866 megahertz, CL10, and the timing is 10-11-10, so not the most aggressive, but it's nice RAM nonetheless, and it's you can call it a low profile RAM. It's only around 3 centimeters tall. And one of the last but not least components in this build is the ASUS GTX 970 Strix graphics card. This particular graphics card is 4 gigabyte GDDR5, clocked at 7010 megahertz. It has 256-bit buzz. Boost clock is 1253 megahertz. Clock speed standard is 1114 megahertz, so pretty high clock speeds out of the box. Uses DirectCU 2 cooling solution. It has 10 millimeter heat pipes, 6-phase power delivery, 1664 CUDA cores, lots of goodies. On the paper, it's very actually similar to GTX 770, but performance-wise, it does perform quite a bit better and quite a bit cooler at that. And one of the nice features of this graphics card, it has the 2 fans that actually doesn't spin at all when you're using Windows or even some light gaming, so that's nice to have. And in terms of the overall dimensions, it's 280 by 140 by 40 millimeters. So decent enough in size, but not too big. And nice thing to have is the metal backplate over here, which is included by default. You don't obviously need to secure it on top. It's already on the card, and that's how it comes. So very nice card. And on the back, which you don't see at the moment, later I'm going to show you when I'm going to be talking about the assembly itself, there's an Intel SSD, which is 530 series, and that's 120 gigabytes if I'm not mistaken. We're going to look at that later. But yeah, that's the overall build. So as you see, very neat looking machine. And now I'm going to talk about the overall assembly process, and I'm going to tell you what I liked or disliked about it and in what sequence I went with it. So let's get started. All right, so overall assembly process started obviously by removing the included hard drive tray. Since I'm not using any hard drives, I'm using SSDs. And first thing I did is I installed the power supply, because if you have a power supply, you can actually connect your power cable. You can switch off the power supply on the back here, and then you can work on it as you would normally, because then you have a proper grounding on the case and your components are much safer. Another thing what I did is I used the anti-static wrist strap. Now you can also use it on your ankle if you want. It doesn't matter where you connect it, as long as you connect it, well, as long as you have it on your body, on your skin, and you have it connected into the grounding socket or something like that. So after installed the power supply, just before I installed the motherboard, I picked up all the cables that I needed. So what cables do you need? Usually you always need obviously the 24 pin for the motherboard, 8 pin over here, as you can see on the top there, for the CPU. Then you obviously need something for the hard drive, so I connected the SATA as well. I connected one of the, because this graphics card is only using one, so I connected one PCI Express 8 pin connector there as well. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, you have a CPU, motherboard, you have the SATA, and you have a graphics card. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's all you need in terms of the connectors, what you need for the power. So all the cables I just routed through here, and I put them on the back, and then later on I did the actual cable management, but that's towards the end of the whole thing. Now, just before I go any further, I'm going to show you what's happening on the back. So here was the cable included, and it went through the top. That's for the CPU. For the motherboard, it just went to the top and went out and was connected to the motherboard. This is the included Intel 5, well, not really included, I installed it myself. It's 530 SSD drive. It's is it 120 gigabytes if I'm not mistaken, so it's a small enough. And I already basically left enough cabling here for the SATA and here for the power for additional 530 series SSD, so I'm going to run them in the RAID 0. So yeah, so that's that. So all the cabling can be done later. Now, straight away, guys, in terms of cabling, this side of the case is really, as you see, they are very flushed. Now, Seasonic was kind enough to already include in the packaging 3 cable ties, which worked really well. And they're Velcro ties, so obviously you can readjust them whatever way you want. And I really needed them because the case doesn't have that much space for the cable management. And in terms of overall cable management, is really bad case. There's one point to secure here, another here, I think another somewhere here. That's pretty much it. Very few points where to secure your cables. I don't know what Corsair was thinking. And guys, overall, I had few Corsair cases already. You can see them on my channel, and I'm not happy with the Corsair at all. Nice looking cases, very well performs in terms of the airflow, but in terms of the features and the build quality is just not out there yet. With the more affordable even and better build cases. So once that's done, I installed the motherboard I/O shield, and once motherboard I/O shield was installed, I lowered in the motherboard, secured it with these screws onto the standoffs. One thing to note, there's one standoff over here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but basically it's not to be used as standard. It's just to be used for positioning of the motherboard. So you clip the motherboard on it and then you can secure other screws. So that will not be screwing in. A bit unusual for me, but actually a nice feature to have. So that's nice. Next thing, when the motherboard is installed, I connected the headers here that would be running all the buttons and LEDs on the front. I connected the audio as well. As you see, audio I routed through here. Once again, for audio, they could have done a cutout here. A lot of manufacturers skip that, and Corsair is one of them. And it's, as I said, for somebody who's that big in manufacturing computer products, it's very disappointing to see that they overlooked this thing. Now, what else is there? So yeah, once that's done, I put in the memory, put in the CPU, and did a quick test run. It booted up fine, switched it off, put in the Noctua cooler. Now obviously to put in Noctua cooler, you use their instructions, very clear, very straightforward, and very easy to install. Anybody can install it without any issues whatsoever. One thing to note is obviously this case allows up to 165mm tall coolers, and Noctua was exactly 165mm tall. So I was a bit worried, but actually we have around 5 probably, or 3mm clearance still left, so that's fine. Mainly due to the fact that I actually had to lower this fan a little bit. As you see, it's down below, it's a bit under the RAM already. If not, you might be in a little bit of trouble with this case. So if you're using exactly the same configuration, you're fine. If not, you might be in trouble. For the graphics card, so was obviously the next obvious step. I installed the graphics card, connected the power cable, which I already had routed, and everything was fine. So yeah, so that was the assembly. And once again, for the cable management, there are my cables here. So that's the CPU, that's the motherboard and all other cables, SATA cable for one drive, SATA cable already prepared for another drive. And I do recommend you guys do that, even if you don't have another drive installed. For some reason you need to connect a second drive, you already have SATA, you already have power, just connect it and off you go. And fan headers, one front fan went through there, one front fan went from there, and the back fan, as you see, it's wrapped around nice and neat. So that's the whole installation. Pretty easy to do once you know what you're doing, I suppose, and not that hard to do even if you don't. Have a look on my channel for a few videos where I did assembly. It's not that painful of a process. Main thing is probably installing the CPU cooler, and Noctua made a great job there for the ease of installation. So thumbs up for Noctua. And yeah, let's talk about the overall assembly and the pluses and the minuses of it. So while I'm looking at the back of the case, once again, the whole cabling here is nice and neat, but it took me a little bit longer than expected to make it that way, simply because there's very little clearance. And even with the cables nice and neat like this, I still needed to put the case basically on the side and try with both hands to press it hard and close the back cover. Now the cover included is very flimsy and it's not a great securing mechanism, so it was a bit, don't really the word for it, not to offend Corsair too much, but it wasn't great at all. The engineering lacks quite a bit there and lags behind other manufacturers. What else in terms of challenges? Noctua cooler was very nice to install, but one thing to note is obviously with this configuration, it's just about clear of the acrylic panel that you put on this side. And if you had some higher RAM or something like that, you might be, well, you will be in trouble really. With the Kingston RAM, I'm fine, and with this motherboard, I'm fine. As you see, I actually was able to put the CPU cooler between the the fan between the CPU cooler and the RAM, so that's fine. Graphics cards, one gripe about graphics cards, they advertise as being completely silent, blah blah blah. When I run Far Cry 3, was it? Watch Dogs. When I run that game, the coil whine was persistent and quite obvious. And I did read the forums out there, and it does seem that ASUS didn't do a great job on this graphics card, and coil whine is to be expected. Now, other games I ran, for instance, Far Cry 3, didn't have any coil whine or very little. I couldn't really hear it, so that was fine. But just to note, not the best graphics card if you silent freak like I am a little bit, hence the Noctua cooling solution. And so yeah, that's that. A little bit of coil whine, something to be aware of, but overall the graphics card itself is brilliant. Runs very cool, very effective, very nice performance and good bang for the buck. Now in terms of the included cooling, the fans included here, 120 and 140 millimeter fans, they average at best. At the lower RPMs, they produce some sort of like a clicking noise, so not the best quality fans. And at higher RPMs, obviously they are audible. So if you really want a decent fan, I would recommend you to go with something like what Noctua makes, so two 140, or if you can't afford, you can go for the 220 millimeter Noctua fans, it's still fine, and one 120 on the back. Now in terms of the cooling, overall case cooling, so obviously these fans will be pushing more than this fan can take out, and what that would do is not allow the dust in, it will actually push the dust out of the case, so which is one of the options that you should consider when you're making a PC build like this. In terms of the power supply, I was a little bit disappointed with the cabling quality. One of the cables, the motherboard cables, took me a while to connect. It seemed a little bit offset, not a great quality cable, but overall I can't complain too much. I suppose for the price and for the performance and features of this power supply, and knowing that the Seasonic is basically holy grail for the power supplies more or less, I can't complain too much. It's a nice power supply, and the cabling being a bit lower quality is not a big deal, because once you connect them you really don't have to move them at all. And the main thing is that this thing works, and it does work, and it doesn't produce any, I don't know, unusual fan clicks or any coil whine, anything like that. Nothing is present. The only coil whining is done from the graphics card, and that's disappointing, because I think I might be sending it back for something that doesn't do it, but unfortunately most of GTX 970s do that, so be aware. So yeah guys, overall the build is very nice. I enjoyed making it, but I can't really recommend the case or the graphics card to you guys. Now, I'm not saying that they're complete rubbish or anything like that. The case is actually very capable, nice looking case, easy enough to install, but the lack of the secure points on the back and the lack of clearance, the quality of the side panels, and just overall quality and feel of the case is a little bit disappointing. It's a €100 case, so I can't complain too much, but at the same time, really Corsair, you should have tried a little bit harder. So that's that. And for the graphics card, as I said, there's a little bit of coil whine, not a big deal, because most of GTX 970s will do that. So unfortunately, it's inevitable, unless you go with the GTX 960, which is coming out shortly, or GTX 980, or some AMD solution. So yeah, but on the plus side, the components that are really good, which is obviously i7 CPU. It's a great CPU to have for anything from the multimedia to gaming to just general work. Noctua Fan is amazing, does a great job, and you know what? It looks actually better than you'd expect when you make a build with it. Kingston HyperX RAM, well, RAM is like RAM, you know, like any other RAM. I didn't have any trouble, runs fine. Looks good, and is very affordable, so that's a plus. Motherboard, it's a great motherboard, good audio solution, good outputs and inputs, so you have everything there that you need. Great overclocker and a decent value. And for the power supply, it's a little bit expensive, probably around the same price as a similar solution from the Corsair, but I would stay away from the Corsair power supply of the similar price, simply because I think, in my own opinion, Seasonic would do a better job for their own power supply. And by the way, surprise, surprise, power supplies, platinum power supplies from Seasonic, Antec and whatnot, they are from Corsair and Antec, they're using Seasonic parts and even manufacturing. So, you know, to be expected similar quality. So I would go just with a Seasonic straight away. For those of you who didn't hear them, Seasonic is pretty much holy grail. As I mentioned already, a lot of manufacturers using Seasonic, and they're great. And I had Seasonic power supplies before. never any issues. Yeah, that's about it, guys. I don't want to rant too much. I already spent quite a bit of time explaining what it is here and what it does and what it doesn't do, and you know what could be better. If you liked the video, click the like button and subscribe for more videos to come, and thanks for watching, guys. Have a nice day.